Julia, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. I will go ahead and introduce Julia, who is our speaker tonight. Julia is the general manager in her family business. She was a Girl Scout from kindergarten through high school and has recently achieved her Gold Award, which is the highest award in Girl Scouts. Her project has helped to create more habitat landscape for pollinators. Julia's project for her Gold Award was passing Senate Bill 5934 on the matter of pollinator habitat. The bill is an encouragement for all new construction builds, commercial and residential alike, to have 25% of their already required landscape to be pollinator vegetation. During the 2024 short session, it passed unanimously through both the House and Senate and was signed into law by Governor Inslee, effective starting in June of 2024. So, without further ado, Julia, take it away.
Perfect. Okay. So, like you said, yeah, I've been in Girl Scouts for about, what is it, 12 or 13 years now. And so now I'm a lifetime Girl Scout, which is kind of exciting. I'm even like a troop leader now for my Girl Scout troop that I'm still in. But just a little bit about myself is I just graduated high school this past year. I also was a Running Start student, so I have an associate's degree as well. And then my family business is, if you guys are familiar, if you're from the east side, is we have the Zips drive-ins. And so my family owns one of those, and I plan on potentially owning it in the future. I'm currently living on my own as well. Now I moved into a duplex, and so I have a couple kitty cats that keep me very busy and very entertained. I was just kind of a head drum major in high school for the band that I was in, which is the highest leadership position that somebody could be in as a student. And then that's just a picture of me at the bill signing with Governor Inslee. So, kind of to start off with like the whole project approval and the meeting with Senator Patton, the reason I chose Senator Patton as the one to sponsor and draft the bill was because he is my representative for District 4, which is the area that I live in. So, I just ended up having a meeting with him. But kind of the timeline for my whole project was in May. I was initially thinking of just keeping it local instead of going to the state level. So, what I decided to do was I reached out to Josh Kearns, which is the county commissioner for Spokane County, and just asked for his support before I was going to go to the Gold Award committee and present that. And then in June, I also reached out to the Green Bluff Grange, which, if you guys aren't familiar with that, that is a lot of local farmers around the Spokane and Meade area that have farms up on Green Bluff. So it's a, I guess, kind of a public farm where people go up and, do pumpkin patches and apples and all that kind of stuff. So my initial thought with this project was just to have it, keep it local around Green Bluff and have all the new construction that's starting to happen around there hopefully help them in turn. So I had reached out to the Grange and asked for the support, which they gladly gave to me, and that was in June of 2023. And then in August, I was just trying to kind of finalize the paperwork that I had to submit to council because there was a lot of questions and things I had to figure out with them. And also see if I could present to them because I was kind of getting a little bit nervous with the timeline before the actual session was going to start. And then in September, I tried to reach out to them to see if I'd be able to present, and they were busy and stuff with other girls, so that was full. So I was like, "Oh my Lord, I'm really getting nervous now." And then in October, I was finally able to meet with them because they only meet once a month. So the other part that I was nervous about too was that most girls, from what I've heard, don't get their project approved the first time. And so you have to go back the next month. So I was like, if this doesn't work and I don't get it approved this time, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this project. But luckily, I got approved pretty easily. They didn't have really any stipulations or anything for me to fix prior to meeting with Senator Patton. And then I ended up meeting with him in November, and it was actually like the Tuesday right before Thanksgiving. So, not the best timing for that, but he was super happy to work with me, and so was his legislative aide. And so, in January and December and stuff like that, that's when they started to draft the bill, which took about a month and a half to do. And the requirements for this project, kind of the two that I focused on, was that it has to be sustainable. So, what better way than to make it into a law? But also that has to have 80 hours into the project. So that includes travel time and all of that kind of stuff. And then just kind of about my project in general is that I had to basically kind of what James has already talked about is that my initial hope for it was to be a requirement where all new construction had to have their already set amount of landscape, have 25% of that be pollinator vegetation. And I was basing my bill off of another bill. It was RCW, I think it was like 41004 something. I can't remember for sure, but it was for public work projects that basically already was passed into law and it required 25% of their landscape to be pollinator vegetation. So I was like, well, that'd be perfect to base it off of and see how we can go from there. Sadly, that didn't happen. It ended up being an encouragement instead with some incentives and stuff like that. But what I heard from somebody when I was telling them about my project is they thought it was kind of a good idea in that sense because, for some people that aren't as knowledgeable like myself with, certain things for bees and how to help them and other pollinators, it might not be the best idea to have them require this in the area that they're working on. And then kind of how I brainstormed my project, I grew up on 10 acres of farmland here in Mead, which again is close to Green Bluff. And so, you know, I had like some neighbors and stuff that kept bees, but I never was really interested and I'm not super knowledgeable on, the specific species and all of that kind of stuff. But it just always kind of was intriguing to me. So I was able to research it a lot as I was looking more into, how I'd be able to do something to help bees and other pollinators. And with us also being in like the hospitality industry and restaurants specifically, I knew that that would help for our supply and the quality of our food as well. So I was like, what better way than to help them with that? And my dad was the one that really encouraged me to decide to push to go to the state level rather than just keep it local. So I'm pretty happy that it happened because I didn't know how realistic it was for me to be able to pass a bill. And then for the legislative process, so the first hearing was on January 11th, and that was right when all of the Alaskan airline issues were happening where the door fell off. And so I was planning on going over there and flying over there to go and do it, but they canceled because of that issue. So I just had to do it on Zoom, but it was interesting to kind of see how that legislative process was happening. And, there was some pushback from some of the builders and stuff like that, just about any requirements like there would be. So when it actually passed through the Senate, there was 48 yeas and one nay, and that was on February 12th. And then on February 20th, it was read at the public hearing, and both of these were in like the local government for both the House and the Senate, which I was able to go and testify in person for the House. So that was fun to talk with them. One of the representatives, he was a Meade Panther and I'm a Mount Spokane student. And so he was like, "Oh, well, how are you going to convince me and stuff because I'm a Meade because it's pretty competitive and stuff between the two schools." So just kind of keeping it light and stuff was really fun because obviously I was kind of nervous going through that process. And then I had to actually call some of the representatives to actually pull the bill up to the floor for a vote because it had gone through a local committee didn't mean that it was actually just going to go to the floor for a vote. So I had to call them because they put it in archives because they didn't consider it an important enough bill to actually put on the floor for a vote. But there was a couple representatives that were happy to help me with that. So I was very grateful for that. And then on March 1st, the bill was passed unanimously through the House with a few amendments. So I had to go back over to the Senate to get approved, and then that passed unanimously. And then on March 28th, Governor Inslee signed it into law, which I was over there in Kent, Washington for, and, got to meet him. That was fun. Meet his wife, who's very into pollinators as well. And then he also named me Washingtonian of the Day, which was pretty cool. I had no idea that that was going to happen. So I was very excited and very honored for that. And then kind of the final steps for my project was that I had to finish up all the paperwork to then send back to the Gold Award Committee to get it finalized and approved, that my project was successful. And then kind of a couple things I focused on with Senate, the bill as it was going through was bipartisan support, obviously. With it being a short session, I didn't want to have any budgets being affected by this, other than maybe hoping that it would decrease the costs. Um, but as long as they could both agree that yes, pollinator decline was an issue and it needed to be addressed, then we were happy. And so that's what ended up happening on both sides. And then also with the bill, there's some incentives that states like reduced application fees or expedited processing with different permits and stuff that you're getting. So that's kind of exciting. And then on the Washington State Department of Agriculture website, they have a list of forage plants, which has, I think it's actually 285 plants so far, but they keep updating it. So it kind of has different things with, what times to plant certain plants, what regions, all of that kind of stuff. So it's pretty exciting to look at for that. And obviously, some general things that I'm sure all of you guys are aware about is, just how important pollinators are for us. And these things are what I really reiterated to both the committee members, but also other people as I was talking to them, because, I mean, we rely on so many things and stuff for them to pollinate with our crops and everything else. So I know how important they are. And I think I reiterated how important they are to the committee members as well. And then just some kind of fun opportunities with my business is you can see there in the top left picture, that is Kathy McMorris Rogers, and then that is the CEO of Girl Scouts for this region. So I got to meet them at the Rotary meeting that we have in Spokane. And Ryla is their Rotary Youth Leadership Award, which the CEO, his name is Brian Newberry, he gave me the honor of being able to go to that. So I went down there. I had a blast. I met, some girlfriends that I think I'll have for the rest of my life. So that was really exciting. And so got to tell them about my process. Also met Michael Baumgartner, all of that kind of stuff. And then, like I said before, Washingtonian of the Day, I was introduced to this organization because of this project, because David ended up reaching out to me to see if I wanted to be the youth director. And I was like, I've never been on a board before, so we'll see how it goes. And it's been a very fun like an interesting opportunity and stuff so far. And I'm excited that, he reached out and that I'm here obviously speaking to you guys tonight. And some other opportunities is I've been on YouTube podcasts, done some pollinator workshops at our conservation district and other things. I got to meet our mayor. I have been in our local newspapers, been on the news, all of that kind of stuff. I think that is it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia.